This is part one of the lecture on what is culture, how do we examine tourism from a cultural perspective. In this lecture, the following topics will be discussed: the concept of culture, the human dimensions of culture, and definitions of culture. The concept of culture. Culture impacts every aspect of our lives, including work, play, and our travel preferences and patterns. Culture is a multidimensional and multifaceted concept. Culture includes knowledge, beliefs, customs, arts, food, clothing, language, habits, etc. Culture is created by humans as a design for living. Since our lifestyles and our ways of living are constantly changing, so is culture. There are more than 160 definitions of culture. Fields such as anthropology, sociology, business, tourism management, etc., may define culture in ways that best fits the discipline. The definitions of culture can be narrow or related to a specific discipline, or it could be an all-inclusive definition integrating various disciplines. Let us review. Culture is a multidimensional concept. It has a range of definitions. There's no single definition, and there are different meanings of culture to different people. Generally, definitions of culture can be categorized into 7 types: behaviorism, functionalism, cognitive knowledge, symbolism, subjective culture, institutional culture or residual culture, and information and communication. Behaviorism. From this perspective, culture is all about behaviors. Behaviors are learned as part of being part of society, and they're not inherited. Therefore, behaviors can be learned or unlearned. There are some criticisms to this approach, though. Behaviors can be misunderstood depending on the observer's bias, and stereotypes. Behaviors are not static. They change over time. Functionalism. From this perspective, culture is the basis of behaviors or actions, why people behave in a certain way. This too has certain criticisms. Behavioral intentions do not translate into actual behaviors. What people say they might do may not always be actually what they do. Cognitive knowledge. Take a look at the crosswalk. When we see a crosswalk, we know exactly what to do. So from the perspective of cognitive knowledge, culture is about the knowledge given to us by society. It's a classification and categorizations from the collective programming and mental conditions imposed by society. The criticism to this approach is that there is no room for emotional behaviors and spontaneity. Symbolism. From this perspective, culture is about symbols and meanings that influence experiences. The criticism here is that symbols do not create culture. Rather, symbols are created by a culturally patterned mind. Subjective culture. Culture is a sum of people's perceptions of themselves and the world. This includes their values, beliefs, attitudes, stereotypes, etc. Information communication. Culture is information and communication. Languages, for example, create different expressions of beliefs, values, and perceptions. Even how languages are written, top to bottom, left to right, right to left, etc. Institutional culture and residual culture. The general cultural patterns that exist in a society are what we call institutional culture. On the other hand, the specific patterns of specific cultural groups within the society is what we call residual culture. This ends part 1.